So we're going to take a look at Captain Picard from Star Trek Captain's Chair. Now, of course, we know that Captain Jean-Luc Picard is the main character from Star Trek The Next Generation, and he may or may not be everyone's favorite captain, depending on which Trekkie you ask. But definitely he is a big enough name to kind of be the headliner here for this initial release of Captain's Chair. So let's go ahead and take a look at what all is going on with Captain Picard and what all is going on with the cards in his deck. Let's take a look at Picard's 3 different missions here. The primary mission that would be on the basic side is have 3 ally on the same ship and at least 2 of your skill tracks at 4 or more. You get a reward of 4 dilithium and you get to draw 4 cards. You may junk a card from the market. Now remember, you do not have to play this right away as soon as you have that. You can play it at any point in your turn. You could even not do it on that turn and wait till your next turn where you still are meeting it and then do it at that point. The only reason you might want to do that is you're drawing 4 cards and you want to draw those 4 cards while you still have a lot of action. Don't want to be drawing 4 cards when you only have like 1 action left. And you'll see that he has a lot of ways to be able to gain allies. On the advanced mode, that would be worth 5 points. Arbiter of Secession, have 3 Klingon on the same ship. This is a pretty easy one to meet, honestly, since you already start off with Worf, who is in your main deck there. That gives you 1 Klingon right away. You can gain 2 others pretty easily. There's like 3 Klingon persons, a Klingon cargo, a Klingon ship, and even an ally that has a Klingon trait. So there's a lot of ways to get Klingons. Seek out new life worth 2 points. Have 6 different species, excluding cards with human and Starfleet in play. Each alien and each transcendent counts as a different one. And the reward is you get to take the top. This says Discovery. They obviously changed this to the encounter at some point, even though it says Discovery there, probably because Burnham's ship being Discovery was probably a little confusing calling it that. We're just going to take a look at his captain's card right here to start off with. He has Starfleet and human traits. He has 5 away teams that are available to him. He has a reaction and an end game. His reaction, after gaining an ally, discard a card to gain 1 glory, and you may beam the gained card to a ship. And the end game effect of score 1 for each of your ally cards. So getting a lot of allies is what Captain Picard is after. He's able to beam them onto ships, and you get +1 for each ally that you gain. So, definitely want to go after allies with Picard. Looking at the deployed ship that you start with, the USS Enterprise D, which has a Starfleet trait and has 1 wild skill on it. Your action effect, deploy this ship, warp this ship, or beam a card here. So you can, when you deploy it, you can instantly warp it or beam a card to it so you can get one of the effects on it pretty much right away. The activation effects, there are 3 of them that don't cost actions. Spend 1 dilithium to warp the ship, discard a card to beam a card here, or promote a person from your hand to your duty officer. These are pretty standard effects here, the activations on this. So we'll go through the starting cards here on the deck. Farpoint Station, a location which has business and anomaly traits. It has 1 science skill on it. The action play effect, take control of this location, and the control effect, gain 1 science. Its activation effect is, if you have an away team here, draw a card. If you have 3 or more total away teams on 1 or more controlled location, draw a card. So it lets you draw 1 card just for having the away team on it. If you have 3 on controlled locations, then you can draw 2 cards. Definitely, it is worth putting one away team on Farpoint Station and just leaving it there all the time. Most of the captains have some location that does an effect like this, but this is one, as soon as it shows up, you want to get it on there, slap an away team on it. Pretty much, start of your turn, you're going to tap this every turn. Will Riker, a person with Starfleet and human traits, his action play effect. Draw 2 cards from your discard pile. So that's 2 out of your discard pile. You may spend 1 dilithium to send an away team to a location. If you targeted a controlled location, trigger that card's control operation. So why is this important? Well, that's because the Enterprise itself cannot send out away teams, and Picard cannot do it from himself. So we have to have other cards that will do that. Riker is one of the ones that lets you do that. Also lets you draw cards when you do it. As far as his table effects here, he has a resupply. Discard the top card of your deck and gain 1 Latinum. Okay, now that's pretty good. Picard doesn't need a lot of Latinum for his own effects. Discarding the top card of your deck can be a good thing or a bad thing, because it can let you get through your deck quickly so you can get to that reserve or development cards. But if it's like the card that you're really after, like there's a ship that you're trying to get to, and that ship ends up being the top card of your deck and you discard it, that kind of sucks. And I find a lot of times that Riker's resupply ends up hurting me as much as it does helping. His 2 table activation effects. Free play a ship with Starfleet. So you can essentially like play like the Enterprise here, but not spend an action on it. Or draw a ship from your discard pile. Now that is one thing that kind of mitigates this discard effect here. If it was a ship that you were after, you can get it back. If it was some other card, it just stays in there. But that does at least let you pull something out of your discard pile. Worf, a person with Starfleet security Klingon and attack traits. Action play effect. Take an incident and discard it. Discard the top card of your deck. Send 2 away teams to a neutral location. So this lets you send 2 away teams. You do take an incident for it. Now early in the game, taking incidents may not be a big deal because you've got ways to deal with incidents. Just got to decide if it's worth it for you. His table effect, the attack activation. Discard a card to remove an opponent away team from a location where you have an away team. If you do, gain 1 glory. If you're like battling over a planet, that could be a big change for you there. So going into the directives that are here, a lot of these are pretty standard directives that you see with a lot of the captains. Utilize action play effect. Gain 1 dilithium and 2 dilithium for each controlled location you have in play. As you get more controlled locations, this is obviously giving you a lot more. The other action play activity, gain 1 specialty track for each mastering skill you have in play, excluding beamed cards. If you have the Enterprise in play, that's a wild that you're pretty much getting right away. This is going to be important for a number of things. Analyze an action play. Take an incident to gain a ship. One thing you're going to see in here, a card doesn't really start with a lot of ships. And you've got the Enterprise and you've got to get into your development deck before you get another ship. You need to get another ship besides the Enterprise pretty early into it. It's probably worth taking an incident early to get that ship. Discard 2 cards to gain a cargo. Depends on the cargo. It might be worth it. A free play, gain 2 dilithium. If you can't figure out anything else to do with it, you can just get some dilithium, which, hey, dilithium's an expendable. You always need it. Recruit. Put a card on top of your deck to gain a person. If the person that's out there is something good for you, you can go ahead and grab it. Another action play effect. Take an incident to gain an ally. Now this can get you an ally, which Picard likes allies, as you see there, and you can instantly like beam them onto a ship. This costs an incident to do that, so once again, you got to be careful to not do that too much. Set a course. Discard up to 3 persons to send the same number of away teams to the same location. You can drop up to 3 away teams, depending on which persons you happen to have in your hand at the time. This is a good way to get away teams out there. A little bit easier to doing it with Wharf, since that costs you taking incidents. A free play effect: draw a card, then discard a card. Warp up to 2 of your ships. So set a course, you never really hate seeing set a course in your hand. If you aren't needing to move away teams or don't have the people to move the away team, the free play that lets you draw a card and discard a card. You usually have some card that you're probably not going to play that turn. So drawing another card and throwing some junk out of your hand is always fine. Always good to come up, and if you're not going to use it for the top one, definitely go ahead and do that draw effect. Diplomacy. Now this is one that is something that we see with Picard here that we don't see a lot of others having yet. A free play: spend 1 latinum to draw 2 cards and discard 1 of them and gain an influence. An action effect: gain an ally, log this card. Since this has an effect to draw cards on it, once again, always good to come up and draw 2 cards and discard 1 of them. You're probably willing to let 1 of them go, and it bumps your influence up, which is great. If you don't have some of your tracks up high enough to be able to do it, or you don't have the other allies, maybe you don't want to do this right away. Maybe you'd rather just use this for card draw and getting up your influence there, and then gain an ally at some other point, because once you gain the ally, you log this card, it's gone. Strange New Worlds, an action play. This is one that we see most of our Starfleet captains having. Action play: select a controlled location. If there is 1 away team and 1 ship there, look at the top 2 encounter. Take 1 of them, return the other to the bottom of its deck. Log the selected location and gain 1 science. So you don't want to do this until you have a location that you are fine logging. Early in the game, you could do that. If you happen to pick up 1 early and you're not real worried about keeping it active, if it doesn't have, any skill symbols on it or anything that you're worried about. If you can pull it off early, a number of the encounter cards can be game changers early. Red Alert, an incident. This is the same as the Red Alert from the Incident Common deck. As all incidents, it is -2 points. Action play: put a card on top of your deck to return this card. You may promote a person from your staging area to duty officer. So this is one, think about the order that you do things here. While this does cost you an action here and makes you put a card on top of your deck, being able to promote someone that you have already played can do a lot for you. So that's definitely can be a benefit to you, even though the incident is not good to have. Now that is all of the starting cards there. Let's take a look at the reserve cards. We have Data, a person with Starfleet synthetic android and ops traits. Action play effect: gain 1 of a science influence or military tract. Table effect: activation: log a card from your hand. If you do, gain 1 science influence or military for every 5 cards in your log, rounded down. So Data can be good, well, later in the game as you're starting to get cards that you don't care about, that you can start just chunk 1 into your log every turn is a pretty good effect to be able to constantly do that. If you're able to get some other card that lets you log cards, something like V'ger from the encounter deck, that can be really good, because other things that allow you to log cards still work as part of Data's activation here. Beverly Crusher, a person with Starfleet Doctor and human traits. The action play. Gain 1 science. You may return an incident from your discard pile. So you got an incident in your discard pile, you just get rid of it. This is nice because it still costs you the action to get rid of it, but instead of having like a negative thing, you're gaining some science on it there. You're not having to discard a card or anything or put a card on top of your deck. If you're playing with the incidents from the promo set, this can be a really good way to deal with those because those are a lot harder to get rid of. The table effect reaction. After taking an incident, discard a different card to return the incident and gain 1 glory. This the incident does not even go into your deck. You're just discarding a card. Now, most of them you have to discard a card anyway, but the nice thing here is that this is a reaction, so this does not cost you one of your actions. The play effect can get rid of them out of your deck. The reaction takes care of the ones that are coming in. Type 7 Shuttlecraft, a ship with a Starfleet trait. A play action. Send an away team to a location where you have a ship. You may put this card on the top of your deck. So it lets you send an away team out there. If you want to send an away team your next turn, that's a good way to do it. A free play effect. Gain 1 dilithium. Then you may either beam a card to a ship or recall a beamed card to a ship. That would let you use one of the Enterprise D's other effects and still be able to beam a card to or from it. Now, the eagle-eyed of you may have noticed that none of this text says anything about deploying this ship. And that is because the Type 7 shuttlecraft cannot be deployed. If it can't be deployed, then you can't warp it anywhere. You can't use it for ship things at locations. So it's technically a ship, but isn't really a ship. I mean, they give you a standee for it, and I know that the standee is there for the bot, but the standee, you really don't do much with it. So as I said, you don't really have any ships that come to you from your starting deck or your reserve deck. So that's why you need to find a ship on your own somewhere. First contact, a directive with 1 action play effect. Scan 2 of ally, log this card. So this is just a way to get an ally right away. Unless you just really don't have the action to spend, I'd say more or less the first time this thing pops up, go ahead and get an ally and get this card out of your hand. You'd rather have the ally in there that can do something else for you. So getting into the development deck, we will start off with Deanna Troi, who's a person with Starfleet, Betazoid, Telepath, and human traits with 1 influence skill worth 2 points, development cost of 2 dilithium. The free play effect, draw a card, then either keep it or discard it to gain 1 glory or log it. So Deanna is one of those cards that it's not bad to have Deanna hanging around in your deck because she's just going to draw another card. It's a free play. It doesn't even cost an action. So you play it, you get the card. The table passive effect. You may treat any incident's play operation as free play. Discard a card to return this card. If you do, draw 2 cards. Beverly and Deanna here, both helping you deal with incidents. Deanna's passive and Beverly's reaction kind of do pretty similar things, so there's not really a reason to ever have them both as duty officers. One of them, like Beverly, could be the duty officer, and you use Deanna just for the card draw effect, which is not a bad use of her card. You could also have Deanna be the duty officer and then just use Beverly to pull the incidents out of your discard pile, because Deanna doesn't have a way to get them out of your discard pile or deck. Only incoming ones. Geordie LaForge, a person with Starfleet, engineer, human, and pilot traits, has a science focus. Development cost is 2 dilithium. Has a free play effect. You may find a ship. You may refresh a ship. Now remember that find is you can pull it out of your deck, discard pile, or your reserve deck. You've probably already gone through the reserve deck if you've gotten into your development, but there are some ways to bypass that. But pretty much anytime Geordi comes up, you can find a ship and refresh a ship. So after using a ship, you can refresh it and use it again. So that's a good effect there. His table reaction: after gaining a ship, gain 1 glory, and you may immediately free play it. So you get to just get glory, speed the game up, get some points, and free play that ship. Temerian's allies with an alien trait worth 3 points, a development cost of 2 dilithium, and taking an incident. Action play effect: draw 3 cards. You may discard up to 1 of each of the following: person, cargo, ship, ally, encounter, and incident. Gain 1 glory for each card discarded this way. Log this card. Yeah, finding the right time to be able to get rid of all of those is going to be a weird thing there. It might be maybe after getting that 4-card draw from the one mission, maybe you want to use it right then, but you probably don't have the Temerians then, or the Temerians maybe one of the allies that you're using to get that effect. USS Bozeman, a ship with time travel, Starfleet, and anomaly traits with a military skill worth 2 points, development cost of 5 dilithium. At least you get another ship that you can deploy, but you got to go all the way into the development deck. The action play effect: deploy this ship. You may enlist a development. So able to grab another development right away. Free play effect requires 6 science. Recall a non-time travel card from your staging area. So a card that you have already played this turn, you can grab it out of the staging area and potentially play that again. We'll be getting back to that in a bit. The table effects: activation: spend 1 to discard this ship. And an activation: discard a card to beam a card here. Notice you cannot discard to retrieve a card. So you've got to use something like the Class 7 shuttle to be able to get any cards that you send to the Bozeman back. Daystrom Institute, a location with Starfleet and android traits with 2 science skills worth 1 point, development cost of 3 dilithium and 1 latinum. Action play effect: take control of this location. Control location is you may scan for a synthetic. Scan meaning looking through the market for one. The 2 activation effects: find a synthetic and gain 1 glory, or draw a card. This is something to just let you, if nothing else, once you have it deployed, every turn you can just draw a card if you're not using the effect there to find a synthetic, which would let you grab data. Among some other things in the common card deck, which we will be getting to. But yeah, this one's always worth getting just to get that extra card draw, if nothing else. End game: score 1 for each of your synthetic cards. Well, you're going to have data show up in your reserve at some point. You're probably going to get him. So that's going to get you at least 2 points. 1 for this card and 1 for data. Starbase 74, a location with Starfleet and Starbase traits with 2 influence skills. Also influence down here on the scoring, a development cost of 2 dilithium and 1 latinum. Action play effect: take control of this location. Control effect: find a person. You may discard a different card to free play the found card. A passive ability: you may have an additional person on duty. So this lets you put 2 people on duty, because why have 1 duty officer when you can have 2? Phasing cloak: a cargo with Starfleet ongoing weapon and cloak traits. Has a influence scoring, development cost 2 dilithium. Find a person and log it. So you got to find a person and log them. So you want to make sure you got somebody that you're willing to get rid of, because this is going to be someone from your deck or discard pile that you're willing to just log and not have rest of the game. Action play. Deploy this card. Junk a card from the market. Activation, free play a ship. It basically just lets you deploy ships for free out of your hand. Or you could use the effect on the Type 7 shuttlecraft without having to spend an action. The passive. You ignore all opponent ship when sending away team to a neutral location. So that is really awesome because normally if your opponent has more ships at a location than you can't deploy away, you can't send away teams. Well, you can do that because you've got the cloak, which is pretty awesome. And lastly, a directive, make it so, with a science scoring track and the development cost of 3 dilithium. Free play, return an incident from your hand or discard pile. Just get rid of it, does not cost you an action. Really, this is one of the best ways to get rid of incidents that you already have in your hand. If you haven't gotten rid of all of them or gotten Beverly or Deanna in play. Another free play effect requires 4 influence. Select a secured neutral location and take control of it. Log this card. Normally, taking control of a secured location happens at the beginning of your turn. And that means that if your opponent is able to make it where you no longer secure it on their turn, then you don't get it. This lets you drop some ships and away teams on a location. Just drop this card and grab that location right away. Of course, you can only do that once because you have to log the cards. If you're at the point where you don't really have any more incidents in your hand and you've got, Deanna or Beverly in there to take care of them, then logging that's not really a bad idea. Okay, so looking at all these here, lots of ways to get allies in there. So peace negotiation is pretty simple to pick up. Arbiter of Secession, once again, getting Klingons. There's other Klingons in the common cards. And you already start with Warfare. You're going to get pretty quick into it. So it's a good way to do it. Seek out new life. Just getting all these in play at once is really the tricky part of it there. And you can have them beamed onto ships and they are in play. So that's kind of how you would go about that one. Now going through the common cards here, there aren't a lot of cargo that really synergize a lot with it. I mean, there's some that do kind of cool things in here, but I don't see any that really just line up perfectly with Picard. The Mek'leth is good as a Klingon trait to get onto a ship, to get Arbiter of Secession. As far as the allies, you're going to be grabbing a lot of allies. Once again, I don't know that there's any that just really line up with it and do some sort of magical thing with them. Aronson actually has a Klingon trait on it, so that's one that is good for Arbiter of Secession again. Ships, there's not a whole lot of difference in them. You just want to get some ships. You have the Katinga battlecruiser, which has a Klingon trait on it. And yes, you can beam a ship to a ship. It's a little weird, but you can do it. Locations, once again, a lot of these do good things, but nothing that jumps out and does anything crazy for you. Now, the person deck is where we're really getting into some here that really kind of synergize with it. B4 doesn't do a lot, but it's just interesting that his effect is very similar to Data, dealing with logged cards, which is kind of fun. Bruce Maddox being able to free play a synthetic. You're one of the ones that has a synthetic in your reserve deck there. Lursa is very good for sending out away teams and for grabbing some ships, which is always good for Picard. Admiral Nechayev being able to warp multiple ships. Free playing Directives is kind of awesome. And also you have an ops with Data. Moriarty, now this is the one. And of course you also have Lursa, Ambassador Kamarag, and Captain Dorg, which is 3 Klingons I'd use for Arbiter of Secession. We gotta talk about Moriarty here. Okay, it's this attack play right here. You can kind of do a nasty thing with him, with Picard. Requires 5 science. You're going to get your science up pretty quick. spend 2 dilithium to scan for either a hologram or engineer. This is not really what you're looking for. It's this part here. And you may spend, so you don't have to spend the 2 dilithium to do it. You can do it just for the second effect here. Force your opponent to discard 2 cards. So you make them discard 2 cards. You're really using it for that. If you want a hologram or an engineer, sure, go ahead and go for it. But making them discard the 2 cards is really what that is about. Now, why is that a big deal with Picard? Well, a few things here. Daystrom Institute. This activation right here. Find a synthetic and gain 1 glory, which means every turn, instead of drawing a card, you can decide to just activate that synthetic and find Moriarty. Basically, at the start of every turn, you play Moriarty and make them discard cards, and there's really nothing they can do about it. And neither of these take action, so you're not even spending your actions to do that. Okay, but it gets worse. It gets worse. USS Bozeman has this effect right here. Requires 6 science, which you're probably going to have. You already need 5 for Moriarty to do his effect. You're probably going to have the 6. Recall a non-time travel card from your staging area, which means every time that Bozeman comes up in your hand, since you know that Moriarty is going to play because of Daystrom Institute pulling him in there and making you play it, you could play the Bozeman out of your hand instead of deploying the Bozeman and recall Moriarty from your staging area so that you can play Moriarty a second time and make them discard 4 cards. That's pretty rough there. So every time the Bozeman comes up, they're discarding 4. So 2 every turn, 4 every time the Bozeman comes up. But it gets even worse. Geordi LaForge. You may find a ship. So if the Bozeman doesn't come up in your deck, but Geordi comes up in your deck, you're able to play Geordi to get the Bozeman. So you're going to be making them discard 2 cards every turn. They can't do anything about it. And anytime one of these 2 cards pop up, they're going to discard 4 cards. And what are you going to do about it? And then you even got things like the one time you play the Starbase 74, you can find a person. So if you already had this going on, you can find Geordi and just, yeah, I mean, and just do it another time in there. And it's just another way to find it there. And that's not even going into other cards in the market that lets you do some of this stuff there. I mean, like Bruce Maddox, finding him free playing a synthetic. Yeah, if you get Moriarty and Bruce Maddox, it's like, what? The crazy thing about it here is that the Daystrom Institute's play effect, Moriarty's attack play effect, the Bozeman's play effect, that second one, and Geordi's play effect all do not require actions. So this does not even take any of your 3 actions to do this. This is just really mean, guys. So if you're playing against him, do not let Picard get Moriarty. Okay, so outside of the really nasty Moriarty loop there, yeah, Picard is, he's kind of the most basic one on here. I think they wanted to have one of their big captains be a character that was pretty easy to jump into, because a lot of people were going to jump into this and play Picard first. He's the most prominent character in here. Nothing against Cisco, but Picard's just a lot bigger name. There's like one name bigger than Picard, so, you know, he's going to be showing up later, so we're going to get him. But anyway, that is a look at Captain Picard. So, if you liked this video, give it a thumbs up and a like. You can go down to the comments section and let me know what you thought down there. And you can also subscribe to my channel. Make sure you catch all the videos that I post so you don't miss anything. This is Jeremy with Point Extra G, and we'll see you around next time.